Okay, fellas, fourth straight season we're here. Third straight time against Man United. You all know what to expect. We're the defending champions this time. We know that we can beat these guys, even if it does go to penalties. All I want is for you guys to give it your best effort. And when you come back here, hopefully we will still be European champions, boys. Back to back and still European champions. Let's go.
Looking for trouble and fights, but you found me. No, I'm a screw up, but baby, I'm glad you're someone to rely on, someone to rely on. No, I'm a screw up, but baby, I could be someone to rely on, someone to rely on, someone to rely on.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 177 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up in today's episode is our fourth straight Champions League final, and it's our third straight one as well against Manchester United, as we do try and win it back to back for the first time in the club's history in this 2036 finale. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, which will also include the end of European season roundup before we do play this game against Manchester United, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But we have got here off the back of our win in the semi-final yesterday against Pep Guardiola's Chelsea. If you did miss that episode, I'll leave a link to it in the top right corner. We have had to run a little bit of an English gauntlet in the latter stages of the knockouts this season to make our way through to this final for the third straight season, as I said, against Manchester United, defeating Liverpool in the quarters, Chelsea in the semis, and of course this is a trilogy matchup, and we have shared the spoils over the past few seasons, both times with games going to penalties. Hopefully this time we can get the job done in regular time and claim our second Champions League title in a row. But before we do look at this game a little bit further, we are going to do our end of European season roundup, seeing as the finals have been played for both the Conference League and the Europa League, as well as all of the domestic leagues in the top five anyway, being finished in Europe. And we will start off with what did happen in the other UEFA competitions. First off, it is the Conference League. We had two teams in the group stages of this. It was both HK and Phil Kerr, but unfortunately neither of them got their way out of their groups, and one of the teams out of an Icelandic team's group, and Bayer Leverkusen, did make their way through to the final, but in the end they were defeated by Nice on penalties. So Nice out of France are the Conference League winners here for 2036. And then up to the Europa League, which of course, if we win this Champions League final, we'll come back at the start of next week and take on the winner of this in the Super Cup. We'll try and remember that this time, because I completely forgot about that a few weeks ago. But RB Leipzig could be our potential opponents in the UEFA Super Cup for 2036. They have won the Europa League for a second time off the back of a 1-0 win over Newcastle. Of course, RB Leipzig have won this previously in the save back in 2029-30, I believe. That was the first season we actually made our way out of the group stages in the Champions League, and they went on to win it that year, and they've done the same here in the 2035-36 season as well. So that's what's happened in the lower UEFA competitions. It is Nice and RB Leipzig who have picked up the spoils. And before we do have a look at Man United prior to this Champions League final, we'll have a look at the results from the top five European leagues. Starting off with League A at the moment, Auxerre lead Nimes in the playoff, albeit still one league to go in that one, but the end results from the league are table as you would expect. PSG pick up the title yet again fairly comfortably by 11 points over Lille. A few points behind that is Ajaccio, and Montpellier finish in fourth, albeit that fourth spot is only for the Europa League. So PSG, Lille and Ajaccio in the Champions League next season. Montpellier, Saint Etienne and Nice will all be in the Europa League. Nice usually would have been down in the Conference League, but with that win in the Conference League final this season, they will also make their way up into the Europa League for next season. The teams getting relegated, Lens and Rennes, and it is Nimes who are in that playoff with Auxerre for that final promotion/relegation spot. Next up is the Bundesliga, of course, where RB Leipzig came from to win that Europa League. Mainz have done a pretty comfortable job there, beating Holstein Kiel in the Bundesliga 2 playoff, and that means they will stay in the Bundesliga for next season. Arminia Bielefeld and Osnabrück are the teams who are getting relegated but Bayern Munich, not by as comfortable a margin as we've seen over the past few seasons, but they have won the league here in Germany by 4 points over Hertha Berlin. As I said, that's the closest that's been for quite a while. It is Cologne and Dortmund in the Champions League next season, of course, as well as RB Leipzig, who finished 5th. They get into the Champions League off the back of their win in the Europa League. That means that Augsburg are the only German team in the Europa League next season, and it is Gladbach who will be in the Conference League. Next up is City A. The teams that are getting relegated here are Genoa, Spezia, and Pescara, but up to the top 7. And the winners this season are Inter Milan. They picked that up by 3 points over Juventus, AC Milan, and Napoli will also join those teams in the Champions League for next season. Hellas Verona and Atalanta are going to be in the Europa League, and Udinese are the team who will be in the Conference League. I think that's quite a good rebound there from Atalanta, because I think a few seasons ago, maybe even last season, they were quite close, if not they did actually get relegated. So that's quite a good bounce back from those guys in a couple of seasons to get their way back into European football. Next, we do have La Liga. The teams getting relegated here are Levante, Eibar, and Alcacon, but the teams who are finishing the top of La Liga, Real Madrid this season, pick up the La Liga title, 6 points clear of Barcelona and Sevilla, and Valencia not very far behind those teams either, and they pick up the final Champions League spots. Real Sociedad can feel a little bit hard done by, very good goal differential, but for some reason Valencia do pip them to that Champions League spot. They will be in the Europa League next season alongside Alaves and Celta Vigo, round out the European qualifiers out of Spain, and that leaves the Premier League, where our opposition for this Champions League final do come from in Manchester United, and as we suspected over the past few episodes, they have picked it up yet again in reasonably comfortable fashion by 7 points clear of Manchester City and Chelsea and Liverpool. The teams who we have had to get past over the past few days will also be in the Champions League again next season. Leicester City and Arsenal are going to be in the Europa League, and Newcastle in the Conference League next season. The teams who did get relegated, Sheffield United, Burnley, and Norwich City. So that is our European roundup. We are going to take on Manchester United in this Champions League final. Before then, we have started the league season domestically off the back of that semi-final in yesterday's episode. Thankfully, we have started things off fairly well, not in the greatest form in those first couple of games. In fact, in most of the first couple of games, a couple of scrappy wins there, 2-1 away at Valoracjevic, 2-0 at home to HK, that one with a rotated lineup. Then we did put out our best team for the final time before this Champions League final. A very, very dirty KA team. They got an early red card for a terrible tackle and did injure one of our players later in that game. So hopefully KA get relegated this year, because they were right dicks in that game. But thankfully we still pumped them 8-0 with our final outing for that first rotation before this Champions League final, our most convincing win. And off the back of that, a rotated team again to take on Nuts KR. And we picked up a 2-0 win there, and that means that we are 4 from 4 to start off the league season, 3 points clear of Fylkir and a few points back to a big crowd of other Icelandic teams. But so far we have a 3-point gap very, very early on in the league season. But as I mentioned, that does mean we have a few injury concerns going into this Champions League final, and with an extended bench, some players are going to miss out, and those players are both Jonata and Bruno Costa, as well as to a lesser extent Brune Bello. Jonata picked up a groin strain, out for a further 6 days to 3 weeks, and Bruno Costa a broken ankle in that game against KA as well, I believe it was. So he is out for 3 to 4 months. That is probably the biggest loss, because we don't really have an extra box-to-box midfielder who is registered for the Champions League. So that means that if we do need to make a change there, it will probably be what we've done the last few games, where we bring on Elaine Basicki, move Basaro Gay into the box-to-box midfield role. But no Bruno Costa or Jonata for this Champions League final. So that means that Alagab will come onto the bench for Jonata as left wing backup, and we have someone like Fabio Mariano coming into the mix as well on that extended bench to replace Bruno Costa, even though he's more of a Mazzala come striker than a box-to-box midfielder. But apart from that, in terms of first-team players, we are at full strength for this Champions League final, and we are taking on Manchester United fresh off the back of that win in the Premier League. They are playing a 4-2-3-1. I think their team's going to look a little bit different to what it does say here on the club info page. No doubt they would have rotated things a bit in that last game of the Premier League against Leeds United, but we are very familiar with this Man United team after playing them in the past 2 Champions League finals. It's going to be very interesting to see whether they continue to persist with Joe Corcoran in goal over Ismail Adine. Of course, we had a look at Adine at the end of yesterday's episode. Very good goalkeeper, quite similar in rating to Cal Wallen. We'll have a quick look at Corcoran just in case he does start this one to show you guys the difference between those 2 players. And here is Joe Corcoran, of course, the man who did win them that first Champions League final in a penalty shootout, but then we got the better of him last season. A former Volsungur man, 3-star current ability and potential, not even on our shortlist these days. We got rid of him for around about £10 million 3 seasons ago. It immediately came back to bite us, but thankfully last season we got a bit of an edge over him. Does not enjoy big matches, so hopefully if they do start him in this one like they have done the past few seasons, that might potentially help us out. But it would be a strange decision from Ole, albeit he is quite familiar with those, as we do know from real life. But just a quick update on what Ismail Adine does look like, the guy who should be their first choice goalkeeper, a much better goalkeeper. So if he does start Corcoran over Adine, he might be asking for trouble. Ole trying to play a little bit of 3D chess there potentially, but it is a strong Man United team, as we know, and hopefully we can win this little rubber series that we do have going on in our 3rd straight meeting in Champions League finals and win it for the 2nd straight season in a row. But without any further ado, we'll come back shortly from the Olympiaski from Ukraine, and we are about to play our 4th straight Champions League final. Can we win it for the 2nd time in a row against Manchester United? And here are the team sheets for this season's Champions League final. 2 teams that you should be quite familiar with by now. There we are on the left-hand side, our first choice starting 11. A few changes on the bench with those injuries to Jonata. Alagard will be our first choice option as a left winger. And of course, as I mentioned, with no Bruno Costa, we don't really have a backup box-to-box midfielder, but we do have an extended bench. So hopefully that's not going to affect us too much. Man United on the right-hand side with one of their players. That's why we're not showing you their faces from the in-game team sheets, but they look quite similar to how they have looked over the past few seasons. And yet again, they are starting Joe Corcoran in goal over Ismail Adine. Hopefully that comes back to bite Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but as I said, looking very similar to how they have looked in the past few Champions League finals, and hopefully we get the job done here and win it for a 2nd straight season. And up to the 12-minute mark, first highlight of this Champions League final is a corner to Man United and Radenko. Krolo thankfully clears that off the line. Not quite sure how that got cleared away because there are quite a few Man United players there right in amongst it. Man United early doors on top of us here in these first 15 minutes, but it is now us on the ball not too long off the back of that good little block there on the line from Radenko Krolo. We do keep possession here, thankfully, through that tackle from Benvenu Bayer. Good pass here for Adam Saki. Big chance, but that goes straight into the hands of Joe Corcoran. So that is now a good chance for both teams here. Inside the first 20 minutes, it is still 0-0. And another highlight here, but we head that ball back to Carl Wallen as Man United were on the attack. And hopefully we can build something here from the back now that each team, as I said, has had one decent early chance in this Champions League final. Agatigere, nice ball forward here for Adam Saki. Big chance here, but it's a little bit of a weak shot, and Corcoran gets down low and makes that save. So that's now 2 good chances for us. Haven't been able to take any of them just yet, and it does remain 0-0 coming up towards the 20-minute mark here. We'll see if anything else does happen from this highlight, but we clear that back to Carl Wallen. He pumps it deep, and Man United do stay on the attack, albeit they give that ball to Agatigere. Mizkic, nice ball there for Adam Saki in the back of the net. Will it count? That could be the opening goal here of this year's Champions League final. It did potentially look like he might just be a stride offside, and unfortunately that is the case. VAR interrupts and the goal has been disallowed. We'll just check how far offside. Nice ball from Mizkic, just a stride offside, so we nearly go 1-0 up. Still 0-0, just shy of the 20-minute mark. And just shy of the half-hour mark for our next highlight, another corner here for Man United, but Basaro Gay gets his head on the end of that, and Agatigere starts to make his way inside the Man United half. We'll link up with Ognjan Mizkic. He just holds the ball up here. We'll play this back to Basaro Gay, but it does look like here potentially we're getting a nice little spell volley there from Doumbia, but quite a weak one straight into the arms of Joe Corcoran. Haven't tested him too much so far, just that one chance to Adam Saki, which was a little bit difficult. But apart from that, we've had a few shots, but nothing overly threatening on the Man United goal. It's a poor pass through. I think that was from Radenko Krolo, and Man United do get position, I should say, back here, and it is Marcus Rashford, plays that back to 14. Good chance here for Bloman, but that's a really good save there from our goalkeeper in Carl Waller. Man United will have another corner here at the 31-minute mark, so it's a little bit end-to-end at the moment, but thankfully Basaroge gets his head on that yet again. Agatigere again will win the race to the ball, and Marcus Rashford brings him down, so that should be that highlight over. Still 0-0 just past the half-hour mark. And a few minutes off the back of that previous highlight, we are down the Man United end again and just did have possession there, still have it, but just having to retreat here a little bit as we play out from the back, albeit around about the halfway line. We play that back to Calvolan, back out to Ramadan, and now it is Basaro Guy who gets that up to Lasana Dumbia, back for Denali. They're just putting a little bit of pressure on us here, Man United, but we eventually get back inside their half. Mizkic, nice ball here again for Lasana Dumbia, but yet again, that's a pretty weak shot and a pretty easy save there for our former man in Joe Corcoran. So we're getting shots off, but nothing overly threatening so far, and they deal with that corner at the near post pretty safely. Still 0-0 a few minutes shy of half-time. And that is half-time in this Champions League final. It is 0-0, a few good chances there for both teams. I think we've had more highlights, and as you can tell by the stats there, more shots on target. Man United with more shots overall, but we've just been a little bit wasteful with our chances. Quite a few easy saves there for Joe Corcoran, but I think there's encouraging signs there. Hopefully we can keep this up in the second half, and we should grab a goal, and hopefully we can make it back-to-back Champions Leagues as we kick off the second half, still locked up at 0-0. And only a few minutes into the second half, we have a corner here. Lasana Dumbia near post. Filippo Donelli gets his head on the end of that and puts that in the right-hand corner. What a time for a set-piece goal. And Joe Corcoran, his arms were waving around like an inflatable tube man, and that finds its way into the back of the net. A great header, in fact, just inside that far post. So a really good header that time from Filippo Donelli. Makes it 1-0 Volsungur, albeit right off the back of that, Basaro Gay has a gashed lower leg. Nothing too serious there, but considering that we have just gone a goal up, Elaine Basicki, a very, very good backup, it might be a smart move here to take off Basaro Gay just to play things safe. Make sure we do have someone knocked down on a red heart out there to try and see out this lead. So I think what we're going to do here off the back of that opening goal, somewhat injury enforced, not a major one, but enough for me to think that we probably should be taking off Basaro Gay here. Elaine Basicki will come on for him with about 40 minutes left, just off the back of us taking a 1-0 lead. And we've gone forward now to the 69-minute mark, starting to actually get on top of Man United in this game, but we're going to make our second substitution. Radenko Krolo has just picked up a yellow card. Pedro Lemos doing a pretty good job as a backup right back, as we've mentioned the last few episodes. That will be our second substitution. 20 minutes left, and we still have a 1-0 lead. And just entering the last 10 minutes of this Champions League final, very few highlights here in the second half, and we now do have Benvenu Bayer down to a red heart. He's been struggling all game, just been waiting to make the substitution here. Narek Voskanyan will come on for him with around about 10 minutes left when you do include injury time, and we're going to start to time waste here with not long left. We'll slow the pace down, start to time waste, as I said, just a little bit, be more disciplined, and hopefully that's going to be enough for us to see out this lead and make it back-to-back Champions League titles. And we've gone forward a few minutes off the back of starting to time waste a little bit up to the 89-minute mark. There's going to be 6 more minutes of added time. I think now is the time for us to start time wasting frequently, and we do have a highlight here just as we are doing that in favour of Manchester United. Robson Fernando, who was a transfer target of ours a little while ago. He does give position away there, though, as we look to play out from the back. Basicki will hoof that deep, and it is Lacroix in position here for Man United. Gets that forward to Mota 0800. Venegas there with a shot. It is blocked. It will be a corner here to Man United. Whether we see it or not, though, is a completely different story. Thankfully, we don't. And not too long off the back of that is a throw in our favour. Thankfully, we just get that away. Don't give them possession there like we did to Chelsea a few times in yesterday's episode, albeit that's a poor pass there from Pedro Lemos, and hopefully this doesn't end up being anything too serious, but thankfully, Alain Basicki there will win us the ball, and we knock it about here in the midfield, but Lassana Doumbia does give possession back there to Man United, albeit long ball forward there. Carl Wallen easily able to get onto the end of that in front of the Man United attacker, and Wallen will take his time there. We'll roll this out to Filippo Donelli. Thankfully, finds Lassana Doumbia safely after what he did in the first league yesterday against Chelsea, and we move that forward to our midfield. Mizkic, nice ball over the top here. Big chance for Saki. Chips the goalkeeper, and surely and still we are going to be the European champions, because that makes it 2-0 deep in injury time. 4 minutes left. Surely that's the goal that seals us our second straight Champions League title. And this one has been a pretty impressive one. It looks like we've been on top of Man United for most of this game. It's a really nice chip finish that just underneath the crossbar inside that left-hand corner. It's a really good finish that from our Moroccan striker. He is just onside, a perfectly timed run, and Velasquez was caught out by that, and hopefully that will be a very good performance. A lot of shots on target, especially compared to Manchester United, and this time we do it inside 90 minutes. And for the second straight season, we are going to be the champions of Europe. That does mean at the start of next week, we will be taking on RB Leipzig in the Super Cup, but that is a big win finally. We beat Man United inside 90 minutes. A quite good performance there, as I said, and we are the back-to-back Champions League winners off the back of that 2-0 win there over Man United in the 2036 final. And back in the inbox off the back of that second straight Champions League final win. As I said, in terms of the overall game, it was quite even, at least in terms of shots, but we did have more on target, a higher XG, and did control possession quite well as well. Those 2 second half goals early through Filippo Donelli and very late there to Adam Saki, proving to be the difference maker, and we beat Man United inside 90 minutes and do pick up our second straight Champions League title, and that does mean that we have already picked up a treble here for the domestic season in Iceland. Hopefully we can match what we did last season and we pick it up for the second straight season, which is something that teams have struggled to do so far in this Save universe, although way back in 2022 and between then and 2024-25, PSG were on quite a good run, but since then things have been just pretty one-off in terms of teams winning the Champions League. We are in quite a good little period here, backing up our 2 losses in Champions League finals with 2 straight wins. But off the back of that, we do pick up £17 million. Very nice indeed. Bassero Gay is going to be out for a week, but we don't play a game for another 10 days off the back of this, and nothing too serious either, so that is perfectly fine. Not too serious of an injury, but probably not the worst idea to take him off when we did the players who are getting medals for this Champions League win. What we can do from this is check out the average rating in the Champions League this season. Lassana Doumbia had the highest one with 1 goal and 7 assists, albeit only slightly higher than Adam Saki, a goal a game, as well as 3 assists, and not too far behind those guys were the likes of Benvenu Baya. He came up with some really big goals at times this past Champions League season. Agustin Agatigere, Carl Wallen, Bassero Gay, Filippo Donelli, and Ali Ramadan, all in around that same rating, and a few other players in there: Radenko Krolo, Richard Waswa, Alain Basicki, Jonada, and Pedro Lemos, all with green ratings. So that was a very, very good season, apparently on one of the best ever now, off the back of 2 straight Champions League wins, and we pick up our second straight Champions League title there off the back of that 2-0 win over Manchester United. We'll just go forward a little bit now and see what else does happen before we wrap things up for today's episode. And we've gone forward a few days off the back of that second straight Champions League final win. We do have the awards for this past Champions League season. As you can see, it is Erling Haaland who does pick up the Golden Boot, tied on goals with Adam Saki, but because Erling Haaland played less games, because Manchester City did get knocked out earlier, he is the one who does pick up the Golden Boot this season, but Adam Saki very, very close to picking that one up over big old Erling. The best goal in the Champions League this season was by Ahmed Abdullah from Hertha Berlin, but we did have Adam Saki against Lille, who was runner-up in that as well. And the overall team of the season does feature 7 Volsungur players: Carl Wallen in goal, Ramadan Denali and Krolo in defence, Lassana Doumbia and Benvenu Baya in the midfield, and of course Adam Saki up front alongside Erling Haaland, with Warren from Arsenal, Rashford, from Man United, and Harvey Elliott completing that Champions League dream team. And the overall award winners, Carl Wallen, did pick up Champions League goalkeeper of the season over both Ortega and Corcoran. So maybe Corcoran played a little bit more than we did realise this past Champions League season. Defender of the season, Denelli, did come third in behind Arsenal's Isaac and Lukumi, who I believe might be from Manchester City. Indeed, that is the case. The centre-back who can play on the wings as well. Midfielder of the season was Lassana Doumbia over Alex Moriba and Marcus Rashford and Erling Haaland, just inches Adam Saki for the forward of the season, Julian Alvarez in there in third spot, and those are the Champions League awards for this season. And going forward a few more weeks, I think this might be our last little update before we do restart things at the start of next week. But here are the ranking updates after this past European season. The top league here in Iceland, the Islands Deildan, has moved up 4 places. We are now inside the top 10 leagues in Europe, ranked in 8th position. So we're steadily getting up there towards those top 5 leagues that we did just go through at the start of today's episode, as well as that we are now the top ranked club in Europe. We have gone past Manchester United, as we did suspect would be the case early on last week. They were getting rid of quite a good year. They have matched that, but we have been very good the last few seasons and are now the best club in Europe based on the rankings, and by some distance as well, 14 points clear of Chelsea. It actually is, and it's Man United who have dropped down into third, got mixed up there with all the English flags underneath our Icelandic ones. We are the best club in Europe officially at this point of the save. And while talking about rankings, we can give you guys an update as well on what has happened this past season. On the coefficient table, we expected we should be able to work our way up to 7th, and indeed that is the case. If we look there, we picked up an 8.9. That means that we did move up from 9th into 7th, so we're not too far now from trying to work our way up towards that big top 5, who are quite hard to break down. And maybe by the end of this save, we could potentially try and sneak past someone like France or Italy as well. It's going to be really hard to get past someone like England with all the teams that they do have going late into European competitions, but we're doing a good job here, especially us. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we start to get a little bit more help from the other Icelandic teams, kind of like what happened last season when HK did make the knockouts of the Conference League. That is probably the big difference there between this season and last season, why that's gone down by nearly 2 coefficient points, but still, that does mean we've got 5 good years there, and we have moved up to 7th on the coefficient rankings, albeit it's going to take a very, very good year for us to rise above Portugal anytime soon. So we might be stuck in 7th, maybe for a few seasons at least, until some of the other Icelandic teams can start to help us out in terms of the coefficients. That's something that we might look to do with some players who might be in need of a move here at Volsungur. Some players who have been around the club for quite a while because of their homegrown status. We're not too far away from being able to get rid of some of those type of players, the likes of Patrick Nygaard. If we could sell those players to a team like HK or Phil Kerr, that might be a good idea for trying to improve Iceland on the coefficient table. But I think that's going to do it for today's episode. We pick up our 2nd straight Champions League with a 2-0 win there over Manchester United. And we do, off the back of this as well, actually have the Euros and Copa America happening as well. So we'll give a quick update on that, hopefully at some stage next week, as long as I remember, before we do the first episode of next week, which is going to be the Super Cup against RB Leipzig, as well as the group stage draw for the Champions League. We are already through to that. We would have been anyway because of our ranking now on that coefficient table. And of course, in that episode as well, we'll keep an eye out on what has happened with the other Icelandic teams in UEFA qualifying as well. HK and Champions League qualifiers. We have this time Nuts KR in a Europa League playoff, and it is Phil Kerr and Akranes who will be in Conference League qualifying. So we'll do a big update at the start of next week with that, as well, of course, as our squad overview before we get back into the group stages next Tuesday UK time, Wednesday New Zealand time. But that will do it, as I said, for today's episode. If you did enjoy it, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until the start of next week, we will set things up for the 2036-37 European season, try and make it 3 straight Champions Leagues. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.